The story starts as the continent name Ilgard was ruled by 5 kingdoms, and the trace of all the bloodlines of their royal families would lead to all one man. It seems this is the tale of one villainous noble heir, a chronicle of Evan the aristocrat who can read women's minds. We transition to the main character, where his name was being called as he awoke high consciousness abruptly from the noise. Standing in a dazzling hallway where a beautiful woman was calling out for him, as he questioned the situation and his whereabouts, he is puzzled as a woman claims of calling their engagement due to unforeseen events. As she vents her frustration of doing much more worse things for him and asks he should be ready for the consequences of his actions. Hearing this made the MC even more confused, as he doesn't understand the situation considering he was just at work a moment ago. He speculates this must be caused by an earthquake. Seeing the beautiful woman in front of him as he remembers the words engagement and calling it off, he wonders if this was pointed towards him, seeing as her angered gaze was pointed towards him the entire time. The other women in the hall were gossiping as how the princess has finally made the decision, as even if men are rare, there are still limits on how rude one can be. Their words made the MC to question the context of the situation, as they were in fancy dresses with weird outfits to top it all. It seems the body he was in wasn't his to begin with, thus he wonders where and what is happening to him right now. He came to the conclusion exclaiming of Isekai reincarnation stories. The woman in glasses suddenly became interested in his words, but the princess brushed this off, asking his opinion about the matter. He tries to push the idea that she has the wrong person. With a hateful gaze she questioned on whom he might claim to be, as the MC tries to reveal his true identity, PF being a librarian named Takayuki at the city library. We transition shortly before on to the main building library in Tokyo, where Takayuki was happily enjoying holding books, but a sudden earthquake made everything tremble. As he tries to assess the situation, a child was about to meet its demise as the bookshelves suddenly fell. With quick thinking he shielded the child, ultimately saving her life. But in the end the last thing he could only remember was getting trapped under a shelf that collapsed during the earthquake. He tried his best to make this sound convincing. The princess could only glare and call out how unbearable it was to listen and to how pathetic he was, as he shouldn't brush the crimes he committed. It seems his past self locked up a maid for nothing more than spilling tea and punishing her far beyond reason, being locked up and in chains. The next one is where he flew into a rage and hurled a vase towards an attendant merely by touching him lightly. In the end they decided that the marriage would eventually change his ways, and yet he still despised women and would dare attempt to poison the princess. This statement alone made him anxious. It seems his past self-crimes were immediately revealed thanks to the poison taster that the princess escaped death. Fortunately this would become evidence against him. Despite the MC being the Duke's sole heir, he likely assumed no one could punish you, but for the princess she doesn't see any value towards him anymore. She then announced of being betrothed instead to the third prince of the neighboring kingdom instead. The guests then gossiped about the rumors being true, as they confirmed it from the princess herself. As she demands to hear about his opinion, the MC couldn't care less, as he is still confused, congratulating Her Highness. This enraged her even more and orders the knights to imprison him immediately. As he tries resisting, he couldn't help but notice that the 2 knights holding him were pushing against him too close. This made him blush, as they were crazy to hold him. But more importantly, it seems things are moving way too fast, and even in those isekai manga there is some sort of explanation. He wonders what would happen to him going forward if this keeps on. However, he suddenly hears an inner dialogue as he felt a shock that went through his body. The inner dialogue talked about getting to touch a guy and smelling a young man. They can't get enough of it as they find themselves lucky. As he tries to understand the inner dialogue he just heard, all he could hear was the women shouting hateful words, but at the same time their inner desire is going through his mind, like touching his mighty sword or loving to toy with him if they are going to imprison him. This outright made the MC to be uncomfortable, as he fears his chastity and innocence. Being held by these two knights, he couldn't stood still as they are hungry and ready to devour him as a whole. He wonders still on why does the women would like to say such vulgar things, especially in this situation, as if they doesn't seem to see the opposite gender much. As the MC gets thrown in jail, he cleared up his thoughts and put things together he knew. It seems the body of the previous person he is now possessing was the child of a high noble and is violent to a certain degree to the point where he hates women. And somehow this body of his could hear the mind of others. Remembering the vulgar thoughts the night women earlier, the MC couldn't help but wonder, as even though they both look intimidating in their armor, they are still girls and yet think like a hungry middle-aged men. He admits to himself of never having a girlfriend. He wonders if women in general think about stuff like that, or is he just imagining too much? He speculates if a chastity difference is playing a role in this world where the man has to deal with this kind of harassment as to why the previous owner of his body doesn't trust women. As he tries to focus on finding a way to escape, a woman in glasses suddenly barged in, explaining his punishment going forward. She introduces herself as Renee Lafori, a first-rank court official. She oversees the palace garrison and handle knights' affairs. His thoughts ponder of how much a beauty she was, but focused on the questioning as he wonders what would happen to him from now on. She concludes the poison the previous him used was real and treason against the crown usually ends with death penalty. This made him fear for his life as it's the most severe punishment. However, the MC being a duke's heir and sentencing him to death is in reality impossible. The charge towards him has been dropped. However, his previous crimes and disrespect to the committee can no longer be overlooked now that his engagement was also called off, and it to be sentenced to life as a seed extraction slave. The MC couldn't help but fantasize as this is turning into a harem fantasy world. Regardless, he would have his status as a slave. However, the Queen, Her Majesty, put his punishment determined in a way he has to marry into the Margrave of Cuvalier's family. This made him to suddenly not understand, as marrying into the Margrave family doesn't seem like to be considered as punishment. Renee suddenly questioned him if he was a reincarnator from Japan. She pointed out that he mentioned Isekai reincarnation stories earlier, where Renee revealed to be also from Japan. Not believing her much, she confirmed this to be dead serious. As she tries to ask more about him regarding his memories of his past life, he then anxiously jumped, as it didn't seem like that way. It felt like his soul suddenly took over this body. Hearing this made her to comment how troublesome this was. As for the MC, this world feels like something out of an otome game or a teen novel. Renee agrees, as she confirmed his speculation to be correct, as this world is set in the Orome game name Hanasaku Otomo no Kantata, and it seems over a century has passed since the original story ended. She explained that the people here are the descendants of the original characters, and to confirm his suspicion, the ratio of men to women is roughly as 1:99, and because of this, society itself has become deeply distorted, which explains his vulgar and weird interaction with the female knights earlier. Confirming his reality right now, as earlier he didn't seen a single man yet, which was odd in the first place. Renee, seeing his calm demeanor, questioned him, mentioning that most men would be overjoyed thinking at last harem time. However, for him, he doesn't seem to think that way. Renee asks that he shouldn't expect too much, as he would only end up disappointed. She claims men are scarce, so they are overprotected, which results of them growing up to be arrogant and selfish, noble in particular, as she labels them as trash. In this world, most women crave men and most men hate women, which is the norm in this world. Left in silence, she couldn't believe he is barely reacting, as a reincarnator would be more surprised. As she hold her hands, she asks to be in his care also. As they held hands, his power suddenly activated, where her thoughts is pointed towards him and the Queen Majesty, although she finds this to be sad, as he is to be wed into the Margrave's family. She doesn't find him to be horrible and would do everything she can to keep him safe. With a distraught face, he is no worried about the Margrave family and their story. In the Margrave lands of Cuvalier, the princess is rushing towards her sisters, where the two sisters seems to be powerful enough to take a giant monster bear. They were just recently wrapping things up, but as the news broke out of an urgent decree from Her Majesty the Queen. Shortly after they got briefed, where they became furious, as if their house the shield is being taken lightly. For them it's a bunch of problems being dumped. The importance of finding a husband is the foremost task for their territory. However, they seem not too keen on having the infamous Evan marry in their family. Being the legitimate heir of a duke's house, it seems like a favor being handed towards them. The big sister could only ponder that they would get into higher level of nobility by this. However, their concern is their territory is a dangerous place, always in constant threat of monsters. Up until now, all their previous marriage proposals have been rejected by the other side. The other sisters argue that they should beat him up and use him to provide heirs for them. They're eager to treat the MC as livestock. They also heard the rumor that this Evan Verlaine, which is now the MC, hates women to a degree. Thus they simply forbid him from marrying anyone, and kept him under confinement to provide heirs. As for a bachelor noble, that should suit him just fine.
The MC tries to deny this, closing one of his eyes to still catch a glimpse, exclaiming that women like her shouldn't say such things. The prison guard couldn't have expected such reaction out of the MC, guessing the rumors, stating he hated women, but in front of her he was mesmerized and was bathing and gazing upon her. As the teasing goes on, the MC wonders if all of the women in this world were like this. However, he then realized this was a win-win situation, as deep down he wanted to look and the prison guard wants to show off. The guard teased him even more as he was deeply interested. She would even give the permission to have him physically touch her. Hearing this made Takoyaki to be excited. As his hands reached out towards her soft melons, this was the first time in the MC's life of ever experiencing touching a woman, as in his previous life he never had a girlfriend. Feeling the sensation, he couldn't believe how soft it was. As the prison guard felt a shock going through her, she couldn't believe in this world there would be a man who wants to desire her physically. She felt the sensation to be so different, being handled by other than herself. The MC finds the atmosphere to be alluring, causing his heart to beat like crazy. Seeing the prison guard actually enjoy this, it was too overstimulating. As he finished holding her, he shares that she was an amazing person. She questioned the MC if women were gross. She finds him to be the oddball. However, he soon realized that women in this world showing themselves is basically the same as an exhibitionist in his old world. And for him doing the touching, he wonders if he completely turned into some sort of pervert. The prison guard then expressed herself of being lucky, as a low-ranking woman like her getting a chance to be touched by a boy doesn't happen very often. She also shares that she would probably never got another chance in her whole life to experience this. The MC ponders of how bad the ratio of men to women in this world was. It seems it was 1 out of 99 of men to women, seeing as how happy she was. The MC then questioned if he ever did more than just touch her, she would still be happy if he went overboard. She calls him out, as even if she tried to pick a handsome guy like him at a night hotel, her entire yearly pay would vanish in one go. The MC couldn't believe this, where she laughs at his reaction, calling him out for not really knowing anything about this world. She admits that men here aren't even cheap since there are so few of them. That aside, she now confirms the rumors not being true about the MC. She saw him as someone kind and to not act superior at all, especially to someone like her, as he even went out of him to touch her. As she held his hands, she suggests the idea of escaping together with him. This idea seems random, as he was confused hearing her say this despite being the prison guard. The MC couldn't believe her words, as she would get in trouble if she ever went through. She explains that the Marquis Cuvalier family he was getting married off to are like beasts, and if he ever goes there the MC would be treated like a rag, not wanting him to go through that. She shared her idea of escaping. Her thoughts leaks while holding the MC, where she seems to deeply care about his well-being and help him some way somehow without any ulterior motives. However, the MC gave her a headpat as a reward for looking out for him. The MC couldn't believe his actions, as he ended up treating her like a child from his previous life. It seems for the prison guard she didn't hate it. He ponders it won't be a good idea dragging a nice girl like her into this. Not wanting to go through with this, he made up his mind on going for the frontier, as the dangerous part of it is merely a rumor, as he also can't afford to let her be a criminal. With this in mind, she then at least offered the MC the comfort he deserves while he was still awaiting to be sent off. A few weeks later, it seems he was lavishly enjoying life inside his cell. La Ferret-san witnessed this, questioning, "What is all this?" The MC couldn't give a clear answer. The prison guard kept to her promise, giving the MC a comfortable life. However, it seems she went around afterwards spreading all sorts of good rumors about him, like he was a good person and rewards women. Especially his desires for melons. Since then he keeps getting gifts non-stop, and to top it off, all the women keep coming one after another, showing their bare skin towards him. The women that came after him started begging for head pats. In return they would show their beloved melons, and sometimes even has physical touch. It seems an entirely new fetish started because of him. As La Ferret-san tries to demand an explanation he couldn't answer properly, it seems he was also to be scheduled as of right now to head out, as the Highness has been pushing for it with no other choice. He could only abide, explaining it wouldn't make any difference no matter where he goes, as he doesn't have any ties in this world. Shortly after they were in the carriage headed for the Marquis land, La Ferret comments the lack of preparedness despite escorting the son of a high-ranking noble. They only got a few protection, which also has some mercenaries mixed in. With so little protection, it seems the Highness truly detests the MC. However, the MC couldn't believe the kind of send-off he got. Despite being outside, the women all line up their melons and made a narrow pathway where he bathed in the greatness of the situation, as it was a sight to behold. It seems they were traveling by carriage for a few days. With unpleasant paved roads, she asks that he should take care of his body. Finding this to be a tough situation, he only hopes the situation doesn't get any worse than it already was. At the castle, a subordinate was kneeling towards a woman with high status, reporting about the MC's departure for the frontier. As she drinks her wine, she got briefed about the MC being disliked truly. However, she heard the prison guards were showing off their melons even when they sent him off. Hearing this made her to comment the ordeal for a man like the MC to be rumored who dislikes women. She then urged a messenger to the Marquis to deliver a gift from her personally. Meanwhile, at the Cuvillier Margraviate Kingdom, two daughters of the House of Cuvillier suddenly met an esteemed but strange guest with unknown identity. It seems she doesn't want to reveal her face also. Dressed in white while covering her face, the third daughter is met with uncertainty, as she couldn't offer proper hospitality as she doesn't know her. She questioned the woman if she intends to bring disgrace upon their house. The woman doesn't answer her question but assured that she wasn't an enemy and she came bearing good news for their house. Left in silence, she muttered her appreciation towards the third sister for granting her time. She then brought up the discussion about the matter with Evan Verlaine marrying into their house. Hearing the MC's name made the third daughter to suddenly pull out her knife and put a strike towards her. However, to her surprise, she didn't even budge and even held onto her tea. Questioning the unknown woman on where she learned this information from. As the woman paused for a second, she revealed the shocking truth, hearing it from the Highness, the first princess of the kingdom. Enraged by hearing this, the third princess demands the reason. She cannot state her name nor identity herself properly. The woman, still held at knife point, asks her to lower the dangerous object pointed towards her. She also wonders if the House Cuvillier is that barbaric to not even hold a conversation without drawing a blade. It seems the unknown woman came here to talk about the marriage happening. She then revealed the insignia of the serpent crest, where they are labeled as the intelligence unit of the kingdom. It seems the first princess didn't have a choice resorting to this. It seems her true objective was the execution of the MC. However, being born into a powerful ducal family, they couldn't push that far. Questioning if Her Highness would go that far. However, in her mind, if the MC was left alive, he would become a spark for a succession dispute with the second princess. Aside from that, the MC also might harbor resentment over the broken engagement, and would lead to a rebellion. Execution not being possible, it seems the MC was removed from the royal capital as it was necessary to keep things calm. However, for the House of Cuvillier, they only see this as the royal kingdom dumping a huge problem and a responsibility towards them. The intelligence woman assured the house Covey, as they already have plans under the direct orders of the first princess, that the MC is to meet an unexpected and accidental death during transport towards their territory. However, if this plans fail and the MC were to successfully travel safely, the third daughter then suddenly was given a highly potent poison as a backup plan. It seems this has no antidote nor trace of origin. As the third daughter wonders why is she being ordered to, woman only heard that she was the most perceptive and most devoted to her sisters, claiming there is no one better but her who can protect the house of Cuvillier from the MC. That night, as the MC was slowly heading towards the territory of the Covey, they were near its borders to arrived by morning. Finding this relief, he expressed beings stuck in a carriage as driving him crazy. Despite being escorted, it seems he wasn't allowed out of the carriage except when necessary. They also lock him inside the rooms they stayed in, and has forbidden themselves from even speaking to him, which he has completely ignored, and compared to being in his cell, he started feeling suffocated by all of this. However, he is grateful for the peaceful journey. As a loud noise could be heard, they are suddenly under attack by a group of bandits that are headed their way. As the group attacked, it seems this group was consisted of all women. The bandit group is catching up to them real fast and is eager to finally taste a man they are longing for. The MC then shouts for Renee to escape and get out of here, asking she should save herself and to not stop running away. It seems his life would be spared considering he is rare in this world. As Renee tries to hesitate for a moment, she ultimately gave in to escape. As he surrendered to the group of bandits being surrounded, the boss of the bandits revealed herself, asking to be a good boy as she will take good care of him. As the MC couldn't stand gazing into her figure, he ponders that every single female on this world is really good looking. As they riled up the MC and immediately insists on starting, he couldn't believe he was being devoured through a kiss. The leader of the group is ecstatic, kissing a guy with such a cute boy. She is already winning, giving her first kiss. It seems they were only ordered by someone where they find this request to be shady job. It seems the knights guarding him were also cooperating with them from the start. As they dragged and pinned him down, they were excited to already see his shining sword. Seeing this made everyone to have their jaw dropped. Despite this being their first time, they're eager to dry him with a quick mouth action. The MC is happily enjoying this as if it was a dream. As the leader of the group went bare, she asks the MC to relax. As the bandit leader ponders he was to be her first man, the MC couldn't help but asks that it was his pleasure to be held down. However, from a distance the Margrave's Night Order were already coming to saved the MC from a sausage oyster fest, happily drowning in desire.